Now, were you all able to print out your letter and look it over?
Yeah.
Yes,
You got a copy? Jen, you got a copy?
I did.
Good. And Carrie, you got yours too? Yeah. Okay. Now, Carrie and Dan, where you haven't been through this process with us, we're gonna try to go slow, and if you have any questions, just ask them. But we wanna try to follow through to show you how we do things. And this is our first beginning with the budget. Get it out. Jessica, I had a question for you. On that first paragraph, where it says we go to town's full property taxing capacity.
Yep.
I believe last year we didn't go to the 2.5. We went to the 2%.
Okay.
So we could, save that little section so that, like, for a pay raises, the contracts coming up, so we have that money in our levy limit.
Okay. This is all what came from the last year, so that could have been.
I think it got changed when Heather came in, because she said, let's keep a little bit as a kind of a set aside bank type thing for us, so that if unforeseen things come in that have to be put in the budget, we'll have the room to do it.
Right. Yeah, everything in red right now, under the budget forecast, that will need to be revised, and like I said, will come with further conversations with Jean and Alex.
Yeah.
I'd like to take the 200,000 number out, because I don't think we have the number, do we? That's something for this year. Have we gone through the numbers?
No. So that everything in red is what was from last year, and so I put it in red just to note that that's not true for this year, and that needs to be revised. So that's why I have it marked in red.
I see Jean's with us now.
Yep.
Can we have your opinion, Jean? I can catch you up on it.
I didn't hear what you guys were talking about.
Okay, on the first paragraph, have you got a copy of the letter?
Yeah.
Okay, in that first paragraph, it says the town's full property taxing capacity. And I know when Heather came in last year, I think we had a little cash left a little space. We went 2% for the budget. So we'd have that extra if we need, like the police contract hasn't come in yet. And anything else that will still be under our levy limit.
Right. Yeah, I probably want to lower just in case those things, they come up at the end.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really put a figure on it until we start seeing the numbers. With the revenues and whatnot. But we pretty much want to use a lot of our levy capacity.
Yeah. But if we keep it right now as we go along, and then we can always.
Right.
But for this letter, that has to go out.
Yeah. I don't think I'd put a figure in there.
So you would take that whole thing out?
I'd like to take out the whole concept of the town's full property taxing capacity. Just don't even talk about it. Okay? Just say level funded, level receipts, and whatnot. Okay? It's almost too much information.
I don't think you need to put that in there at this point.
Claire, you're on mute.
Claire, I'm not sure if you're trying to talk, but you're on mute.
Oh, it got muted again. Should we take out that whole second sentence, or maybe just this projection includes the uses of the take out the town's full property taxing capacity?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the way that paragraph says is you're trying to determine the amount of money you have to spend, okay? So what he's saying, is we're gonna put all the tax money in plus, plus, plus. Well, we don't wanna put all the tax money in how much we're gonna spend next year. So for these people, we're looking for the expense side of the equation, not the revenue side that much. So I mean, I'm not even worth talking about that.
So maybe we should take that whole revenue section out? What's
That's
everybody
what I'm
else
thinking.
doing on it? Jen, have you got any thoughts?
I mean, if you wanted to do something generic or a little bit more vague, you could even use something as basic as, we're expecting to, level fund at last year's total receipts. I mean, you could use it. I mean, they're gonna. I mean, if we're telling them we're gonna, level fund their budgets mostly anyway, and if they need anything else, they got to ask now or forever hold their peace. I don't think they really care what we're using for receipt totals.
That's my feeling, Jen.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we're in expense side.
What do you think, Jean?
Sorry, I can't
Disappear.
either. I'm going with the mute button too.
We need to know the revenue side.
I think you just want to tell them that you're going to look at level funding, and so like Jen said, you have to just level fund. If there's anything else you're going to need, you're going to have to ask early. But I think that's pretty much all I want them to do. So I don't know that you need to have all this other stuff in there.
If we look at the letter that was sent in 2018, it's a little less amount of stuff, but it's more to the point, I think, than the 2019 letter. And I don't know, when I looked at them both, I sort of felt that was more appropriate to use something like that.
Ted, what did the 2018 one say? What did the 2018 one say?
Can you read that one to us?
It basically just says that the budget process is starting, okay? And he did talk about using the taxing capacity in it, in terms of a little bit of the revenue side, not much, but concentrated more on the fact that he was looking for the expenditure requests and the capital budget requests, and as that's really the objective of this whole letter. Okay, you boil it right down. We can ask for all kinds of stuff, but those two things are stuff that we need, and kind of leave it that way. I don't know. not sure exactly how we want to put it, but it just made more sense to me to make it pretty short. They all know what they're gonna do. And, anyways, but
Now, I wanted to suggest tonight that we don't send out the capital requests with this letter. We do that at a separate time, so they just have to look at their budget first.
yeah, I think that's fine.
They won't have too much in front of them. Then after they turn their budgets in, then we can give them their capital requests. Maybe in this letter, we can say your capital requests will be following.
Yeah, I like that.
If you could do that, Jessica, on it. And they've only got the budget to look at. And maybe they'll get it in quicker and everything too. If they've just got that one thing doing it.
The only thing I can see wrong with that was if you move up the DPW in our schedule of meetings, you want to make, they're going to ask for vehicles, that
Yeah,
Bob's going to ask for vehicles, that the chief of police is going to ask for vehicles. So we'd almost have to turn around the second set of letters, like the first week of January. Because if we're going to start looking at boards coming in February 4th and you want to move the DPW up, you want to give them enough time.
yeah, or we can call them in to come in and talk on their capitals.
We could.
But I'm figuring once they get them in, so we start on February 4th, the capital forms could go out then, once we have their budgets in our hands.
Right.
So, can we give Jessica some, kind of move those words around and just, we don't want to put in the, tax capacity and all of that where we're getting the money. Can you take care of that, Jessica?
Yep, yeah, I'm just taking care of it right now.
Okay, so that we don't, go into that. Now, the note that's on there, I would think leave it. Conservative estimates, it doesn't include personnel or services that may be desired, so they won't be adding any of that for this first run. Now, in one of them, we talked about the OPEB in there, but I don't think we need to put that in, do we? Does anyone else feel that we need to put that in there? Because they don't really have anything to do with that.
Right.
So we don't need to put that in. So if we go to the next paragraph, the budget directive,
Are you muted out again?
did you have any questions at all on that first paragraph, Karen or Dan?
I agree that the revenue side isn't as important as the expenditures.
Yeah. So we'll move to the next section, which is the budget directive. Now, this has got the 2.5 in there. Can we change that to 2.0?
We need that. We need that at all.
That first sentence could be taken right out, I think.
I think it should come out. I think it's just confusing.
Yeah, but the rest of it, I think can stay, that paragraph.
Yeah. I think it could stay.
Does everybody else agree, or do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
agree.
think the rest of that should stay.
The rest looks fine.
Now that the next paragraph, I didn't have any comments on it. Did anybody else?
Well,
I'd just
that-
like to put the middle sentence only, scratch the first and the last.
On that first paragraph or the second one?
The second paragraph,
Okay,
it's and scratch that, and any increases, keep that one, and then the base level budget must be completed. We should tell them somewhere else when we want it. Maybe in the first paragraph, way up in the beginnings when we want it, not in the middle.
well, this is where the budget directive is,
Yeah,
under the
okay.
heading.
Yeah,
The first one was kind of a opening and forecast, and then this is the directives telling them how to do it and when.
okay.
Now, when that, I'm reading it again here. When it says, any increases in either personnel or expense lines must be requested in an itemized supplemental budget request, it says see below. Here is the see below.
That's number 8 on the next page.
Correct.
But this didn't reference that. Do you know what it's referring to, Jessica? Can you explain that a little bit there?
Yeah, it's referring to number 8 underneath Finance Committee meetings. That says supplemental budget requests if needed. If you are proposing a supplemental budget request for additional staffing hours or services, please create a second budget proposal labeled Department Plan B.
Okay, I see that now. Yeah. Should we put, rather than see below, see item 8?
Yeah, I can be more specific there.
Because I would look like right below that paragraph and there isn't anything there. Okay. And then they'll submit the budget by January 8th.
So the 8th is a Friday. We're closed that day, right?
Yeah, it should be the 7th.
Well, I think it's advantageous to do the 8th because not all departments are closed on Friday. So, for example, the fire department, the police department, the DPW, library, senior center, they are all open on the 8th as well. So I think
Okay.
I don't see any harm in extending it just one more day.
Okay.
Okay.
Now the next paragraph, you have to change Andrew's name in there to yours. Oh, were you gonna let
Maybe.
him
I was gonna say, I don't know, maybe Andrew will come back for us.
I saw that, and I said, you gotta change that.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Now, that was the only change I had on there. Did anybody else got anything?
Do we really need some of these things on the list? I don't remember getting them last year. The mission statement, the organizational chart, some of that stuff. I didn't see some of that. I don't know whether it was ever done
Well,
or
that's
not.
what I was gonna say.
If it's necessary, why ask them to produce it?
I know Andrew had done that and was trying to get them to. What does everybody else think?
I mean, I would say with mission statements, do they affect what we're trying to accomplish with the budgets? I think they're important and integral with business and departments, and they should have them. But does that affect what we're trying to do over here?
Yeah, that's a good comment. I agree with that, Dan. Man, I'd like them to spend more time on the numbers, okay, than some of the other stuff. Well, it might be important, but like you're saying, for what we're doing,
I think that the organizational chart might be nice, but in a little bit more detail, because I think a lot of the salary line items get lumped. It might be nice to know how many people we're talking about in each department, and possibly even, seniority / step information, so that we know who's in there more than anything else. Some of these departments have 2 people, some of them have 12.
right?
Yeah, I think it would be a good on that organizational chart.
Yeah.
And I think I think number 3 is not a bad idea either, in terms of maybe not goals and accomplishments in terms of projects, but if there are alternate sources of funding that these departments are looking for, not that you can bank on them, but it might be nice to know that there might be some offset down the road.
Yeah. And I was questioning what year numbers they should be. I got all confused with. 'Cause the first one is 2020, and then 2022. And then it goes back to 19 and 20. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I think that, so the reason why it goes back to FY20 goals and accomplishments is because FY20 is completed and FY21 is still in progress, so we can't see that entire picture. And then to include grant awards in FY19 and FY20, I think that can just give an additional year of history to see, maybe in FY20 there was, and it was an abnormal year. So maybe we can see some kind of, if there's consistency, if there's not any consistency in what to expect in the upcoming year.
What about in terms of the CARES funding and how that affected departments' budgets? Because there are some things purchased. Is there going to be recurring costs to pieces like air purification systems with replacement filters, stuff like that? Is that going to be incorporated into the budgets?
So things like that would need to be incorporated into future budgets, and that would come, that would come out of an expense item. But as far as where the CARES Act at large will be located for discussing, grants and awards that we've received, I think that'll be under one department. So it would probably be under my department and not piecemealed for each department what each department got. But that's something that I can look further into on what would make the most sense on if it would make more sense to break it down between each department on which department got certain funds, that's one option. But then, like you mentioned, the air purifiers, that's something that affects every department. So how that would break down, I haven't really thought about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, we don't always hear what the grants that they received. Do you remember really any grants? Some, we get them kind of here and there, but not everything.
I find that, oh my gosh, Rutland Emergency Management, he does a very good job of documenting what type of grants he's applied for and received over the last 2 to 3 years. When Stephanie was managing the library, I think she did a very good job, but I don't think Chief Rogowski does a very good job. But I don't know that any of the other smaller departments necessarily list them in their, when they come for the budget. You hear about them here and there, but you're right, we don't hear about them with any consistency.
Yeah.
So I've been, since I've gotten here, I've been keeping track of as many grants that I know of that departments are applying for, and then keeping track of what I am told that we receive. And for the most part, a lot of grants that the town receives, I have to sign off on. So I know the majority of grants that come through. And then, like you mentioned, there's, the fire department's very good at letting me know when they receive some of their smaller grants and whatnot. So I have been keeping a list of what I know of that's come through so far. And right now we are at about $250,000 in grants, excluding the CARES Act fund this year. And I think we're only waiting on one grant to hear back from, and we're almost at 100% receiving rate of what we've applied for so far this year.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah, if we can be kept abreast of the grants, and then we can really realize what they're getting besides what they're getting in the budget too. Okay. So we'll take out that mission statement for this year. Maybe we'll include it another year, but and keep 2 and 3. And what about number 4?
Could that be like a when necessary deal?
I'm not really sure. Jessica, can you explain what that is? What kind of programs and sub-programs?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I think that it could potentially be different initiatives that departments have that are ongoing, that aren't a part of like your typical like staff and normal supplies. So I'm thinking that programs and sub-programs would be additional initiatives that departments are pursuing. So for example, if the police department pursues a canine, that would be considered a program. Or if they, I'm just using the police department as an example, but if they have a like Citizens Police Academy, that would be a program that they have.
Okay.
Or the library has a lot of programs and stuff. So
I haven't really seen anything. Have you, Ted? Really? A specific
No. That's why I say I'm not sure. I haven't seen much of that.
If it's on there, on this list for them to do, then it should be given to us when they come in with their budget. That would be.
That'd be
Anyone else got any questions on that? We leave it on there and maybe ask them about it. See if they come up with anything.
Yeah.
If they haven't already shown it to us, that's one of the questions we can ask when they come in.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5. See, I'm not sure. When I look through this list, I don't believe we got any of this stuff. Maybe piecemeal. Do you remember? Eric, do you remember last year?
No, I remember a lot of talk about the departments are sharing services from their employees a lot. So it seems sort of but I guess we already understand that. The departments share personnel, right? From what I understand, is that what this means?
Yeah. What's the acronym mean? MOU.
A memorandum of understanding. So you're right. There are some departments that there's one employee that will work across multiple different departments, and then other MOUs can include a lot of the like union contracts have MOUs associated with them. So that's another example.
But I don't remember getting any from in last year.
No, these things are on here and we never got anything. But maybe we could put it like on a sheet when we have them come in and just ask the different things. Okay.
Maybe instead of saying must provide, you could up at top you could say requested to provide if available. This departments must
I
provide.
like that.
Now, if we go to requested FY 220 expenditures request,
So what money did they ask for last year? Is that what we're asking them?
I don't know.
No, that's their budget.
Last year's budget.
So I think
That's their main budget sheets.
No,
I think
this is 220, isn't it? Isn't it, Jessica?
I
Yes,
should
yeah.
say 222.
No.
No, so it mentions that it's requested FY 2020 expenditures request, and I think that one of the requests might be redundant, but so that will allow us to look at the last complete fiscal year of what was expended out of their accounts, because again, we're in FY 21, so we're not through FY 21, so we don't have all of the expenditures
So
available.
you want to say include then include fiscal year 2020 budget?
For expenditures.
Yeah. So that on that worksheet, you will have 2020, 2021, as much as they've spent, and then 2022, which is the new one.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. It's their budget worksheets.
What are the thoughts of taking the list of numbers here and have them almost be like their own sheet, like with check boxes, so it can almost be checked off by the department?
So like the cover sheet, when they return it back, they would have to check off everything with their packet.
Yeah, I mean, if we're asking for these documents to be provided, it'd be easy to say, all right, submit this checklist with your budget, and we know what they're providing, what they're not providing at a high level, real easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely doable.
And then you really be able to keep track of what they've turned in and not.
I have a question on number 6.
Yep,
Is that the request for their budget for 2020, or is that going to be actuals? Like what they actually spent?
the actuals.
So you better put that in there. Because
Yeah.
you're asking what they requested in 2020.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good catch, Jane.
So request FY 2020 actual expenditures.
Yeah. And then number 7. What exactly, Jessica, are you asking them for in that one? So that's the same as the one before.
You're talking about the FY 2020 expenditures detail.
Yeah.
So that would just, I guess that would be more appropriate. And again, this was what was sent out last year to all the departments. So I have to say that this would probably make sense as being like a subsection of the previous one, saying that, include the actual expenditures and explain the every line item in detail.
I don't really think they need to explain because it is detail. Those worksheets. That's what I always refer to them, the budget worksheets. And they have the column of the 220, and it's what they actually spent that year. And then we compare that to where they are this year, and then do the budget for the following year. And when they do that, it's explained, each line item is on that budget.
Exactly.
It's explained.
What they might be looking for in number 7 is like a lot of the departments have like an expense account instead of like a detailed expense account. It's all lumped into one expenses. This might be something to say, okay, what did you actually buy out of that expense line? To summarize it into, what was actually purchased, because there's no detail on the books about what they're supposed to be paying out of that.
That's right.
So maybe it's to summarize, because we have very broad, some of our line items are very broad.
Yeah.
So maybe some of the bigger departments anyway have a number of different things that they take out of that one line item. So maybe that's more of a summary of, like, you spent so much in office supplies, or you spent so much of that for, I don't know, phone or whatever it is.
Yeah. What actually they're buying out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it could be a subcategory of number 6.
Yeah, I think it would be pop number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, what your actual expenses were for 2020 that you actually spent, and then the breakdown of those items into what kind of categories that you made up that number.
Yeah. Yep. I'm glad we've got you here, Jean. It's good to have different minds because you think different ways. And then the last one on there is number 8. Now, Jessica, could you explain that for our two members? New members, they're learning for the first time going through, so.
So the supplemental budget request.
Yeah.
So this is anything that is additional that's not included in the current budget right now. So, like I mentioned, if if somebody needs more hours, if they want to expand their department, if they want to, like I mentioned, a new canine program, these would all be a separate request that isn't already built into the existing budget. So it would just make sense for us to digest it separately.
So when it says label as Department Plan B, are they only including those additional things they want in the supplemental budget, or are they taking the budget they're proposing to us and adding to it? So like one would be for 100,000, and then say they increase someone's hours, and you see budget B is now for $112,000.
That's a great question. I don't know how it's been done in the past when that second budget proposal is included. I would think that it would just be separate, and so you would have, say, that extra line item would cost $12,000, and your supplemental budget would only be $12,000, and then you work on, whether that's reducing another line item in their existing budget, and trying to make it all work together. But I think the way that I would approach it is by doing a supplemental budget that is only the excess request.
That sounds good.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Now, do we have any questions on this part? The letter, I think we've pulled it apart and everything, Jessica. With the changes, we should be all set to send those out. Do we want to vote on that, the letter, or do you want to see a letter printed before we, or can we trust Jessica to see it?
Before you guys vote on it, do you guys want to review the budget calendar? Or
yeah, I'm gonna go on
page?
to that next. This was gonna do just the letter for now. Then we'll go to the next one. What do you think, Ted? Because it's gotta go out.
That, she's got some writing to do to get all of this stuff down. But if she sent you a copy, Claire, before it went out,
Yeah.
a day or so, and you could pass it around to look, and just so make sure everybody's comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we didn't give her word for word, so she's going to have to do some work to get it together.
Kind of just proofread it. But as far as it is,
That's right.
with the changes, it can be fine. Now we can go on to our schedule.
And Claire, before you move, that paragraph after item 8, what does that mean? The department should focus on the narrative aspects of the departmental budget pages first. So financial spreadsheets will be the focus, moving as more information becomes available with regard to revenue projections. What are the narrative aspects? The main thing we're asking for is that line item budget, right?
Yeah.
So the narrative aspects
Yeah.
would have been what the committee decided to get rid of. So it would have been that mission statement, the organizational chart, some of the more, so the FY20 goals and accomplishments and future goals.
Oh, okay.
So that's like the narrative. So it's kind of putting together a story, and so it's not just we're looking at straight numbers and not understanding what these numbers mean for the community at large.
Oh, okay. All right, I get it. Sounds good.
So the budgets are gonna be due back to the town administrator by the 8th. Now, I wanna know when you wanna have the next finance committee meeting. Jessica will get them back. Now, that'll give you time between the 8th and the 21st to explain how you're gonna do this now, Jessica, and what you're gonna be giving the departments for their worksheets to work with. What are you gonna use?
For the departments,
Yeah,
I'll use the spreadsheets like were used last year. Are you
Yeah.
talking about
Good.
what are those spreadsheets?
like through Excel?
They're through Excel.
Yeah.
Now, are you gonna let the department heads change the numbers on those sheets? Because Andrew did. And that was dangerous to me because I never knew when they got changed.
Well, you'll be able to see where, where they got changed based off of, you'll have a column that shows FY 21 and what was approved for there. And so once their requests for FY 22 come in, you'll see how it's changed.
On that worksheet, you're going to have FY 2020, which is complete.
Yep.
Then you have the FY 2021, which is only partial year.
Right.
Then you will have your 2022,
Right.
where their numbers will be put in.
Correct.
But what I'm saying is, I think it was Andrew, I'm not sure now, Ted, maybe you can remember. Let them go into the 2022 and change their numbers. And then I know I kind of lost where everything was. And we
Wasn't that what we're asking them to do? To fill out the numbers for 22, for
yes.
fiscal
But
22?
then after that, they were changing those numbers.
Yeah, the problem is that when they submit it to you, Jessica, on the 8th, then we have a magic number on the 8th, okay? The thing is, we have to make sure the sheets are dated, okay? Because what happens is something changes, but we only have the 8th sheet to be looking at, okay? So we have to somehow document any change that's made after the 8th somehow. And in the past, we used to have multiple copies of this stuff around with no date on it. And it was really difficult to know what's going on. So I think that if on the 21st, we get the January 8th magic numbers and we all have our hot little hands that day, we'll be talking about it. And if there's a change, maybe in another week or somehow we know things get updated, or we could go in and look. I'm not sure how we want to handle that. But if there's too many to get around, then we got problems.
Jessica, I think part of the question is, are you going to be using like an emailed copy of Microsoft Excel back and forth between you and the department head versus a Google Doc, which can be touched and altered at any time, and we don't see, you wouldn't be able to see copy of copy because it's always the live document.
Right. And so through Google Docs, you can actually track changes. So you can go in and, I mean, I know it would be probably very challenging for the finance committee to be able to go in and see these details. But I mean, for me, that would make the most sense because I can, you can go in and you can see line by line that, the library director changed it at this day at this time, and you can revert back to the original changes. That's one way for for me to stay on top of what changes have been made. But other than that, I can definitely think about a better procedure to make sure that what the finance committee is seeing isn't
How about,
what, because I don't want to. I think that departments should have the ability to, for their own use and for their own, planning, they should be able to play with the numbers however they want. But when it comes to creating a final presentation to the finance committee, that's when, I'll have to make sure that there's consistency in what everybody is seeing, and everything can be, and that can be as easy as if I say on January 8th, we get our documents, I PDF them, and then they're in stone. You can't change a PDF. And then,
Right.
so that's another way that I can monitor.
how about if you put a revision history on the Excel document, and
Yep.
in that revision history you say change line item, change row 5, budget request and a certain date.
Yeah, and Excel is the same thing. Excel and Microsoft have the same capabilities where you can track changes, and so you can see where departments have or where individuals have changed anything.
The thing we did before that worked good was they used the Excel, and once they turned them into you, that was it. That was their budget we were running with for the year, not changing in midstream, because it throws all the numbers off then. If they need to change something, then they need to come in before the finance committee and say, that number isn't right. But those numbers that they put on there for their budget have to be solid, because that's where we're working for our percentages and everything.
Right. And so for example, like I mentioned, on January 8th, they're going to submit a budget. In that budget that I get on by January 8th, that will be turned into, basically turned into stone for that date. And then going forward, any requests that they have to change, that they'll have to make a more formal request to change it.
Right. They can't just go in
Right.
and change the number.
Right. No.
Because that's what they were doing
Right.
before, and it was awful.
Okay.
We just lost control of it all.
Okay. Good to know.
That was one of the problems. So that's what we're trying to do. We can get that straightened out this year.
Do we want to add that in underneath one of the numbers?
That's an idea. Yeah.
Just noting that maybe even if it's the last one.
A note on the sheet, Jessica, somewhere.
The budgets will be locked at midnight on January 8th. And there'll be no additional changes.
Unless you could put on there probably, unless you come back to the finance committee to discuss it.
Yeah, I'll say, budget changes made beyond January 8th will need formal approval.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So-
good. I like that.
that's good. You can turn the words around, you know what we mean. That's good. So we should probably meet when she's gonna distribute to the finance committee. The 21st. That's a Thursday, right? I think
It
that
is.
was.
Right.
So we'll have our meeting on the 21st. That'll be our next meeting, and we'll get them and we can talk about what we've got, what ones we're missing. Sometimes you don't get them until late. So that'll be our next meeting, will be the 21st. Now, my kind of idea I was thinking is like that first meeting on February 4th, if we can get most of the small one-line items in and done that night, then we can concentrate more on the others.
I was thinking about moving up the March 18th people to February 18th, and the April 1 people to March 4th. Okay, they're the sewer water parks. That's always a big budget. There's always tons of hairs on that dog, and by the time we learn them, we're pretty far down in the year. If we move them up, that gives us another month to find out what's going on there.
Well, now, if we took, the Board of Selectmen is a big thing. They have a lot of them. Not that any are really a problem, but there's a lot of budgets they're overseeing. So if we could move, let's look at February 4th. If we move them off of there, say we move them off of there with the board and the Board of Health. Can I give you time to do it, Jessica? Or how do you want to do it? To move them around?
Oh, it's just a quick copy and paste.
Okay. So if we take conservation, planning, zoning, youth commission, recreation, we could do Christmas and Barre in the Southbury Common. They won't take long. They'll be maybe 15 minutes each. So if we can put them up there. And then move the Board of Health and Board of Selectmen down to the 18th.
So are you talking about the entire agenda of Veterans Agent, Board of Selectmen, Accountant, Treasurer Collector, and Board of Health?
Yeah, and take the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health off of there and put them to the 18th.
Oh.
The next one down.
Okay. I guess, wouldn't it make sense just to keep all of the groups as they are and just move their dates around? Instead of splitting up how things are grouped currently?
No, I was ungrouping them.
Okay.
Because those are like one-line item budgets. They don't take much time. You know, we've been through them like Ted said, the police and the fire, they're in the DPW. Those are the big ones that take almost the whole night themselves. And this way we can get all the small ones done in the first night. So then on the 18th, you would have the building department in Wachusett Greenway, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Health. How does that sound, Ted?
You lost me. When the minute you put them up, I'm in total confusion, Claire.
On February 4th, the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health will move to February 18th. And then they'll be there with the building department. And we'll move from the conservation through the Southbury Common Committee, all of those. Well, the planning, zoning, and conservation are all one board anyways now. So on the 18th.
What are you gonna do with them? Leave them there or move them?
No, we're moving them up to the 4th with all the other little ones.
Yeah.
So then on the 18th, there'll be the building department, the Watchers at Greenway, the Board of Selectmen, and Board of Health.
Yeah.
And I think we can put the town clerk in there.
On the 18th?
Yeah. So then, Ted, you wanted to move the 18th to the 4th? Or do you want to move the DPW to the 4th? I don't remember what you said.
I was thinking, to me, either one, the DPW or the fire people, move them up. Next kind of a thing.
Because we're on March 4th in March. You want to leave the fire police on the 18th and move the DPW up to the 4th, or the fire and
Yeah,
police?
you could do that. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to keep the fire on the 18th and move the DPW, that group up to the 4th, at least
Yeah.
that gets him a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
I mean, the water, the sewer, DPW, that's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah. So you can just change the dates on those, Jessica. The April 1st will be March 4th. And put the March 4th down to April 1st.
Okay.
Right?
And that way we'll be good. And these meetings are every other week.
Right.
Dan and Carrie know. But we sometimes, getting towards the end, we need to meet every week. You know, if we get behind or they need extra coming in again for something else. But this is the way we started anyways. So I was thinking, Jessica, that you could maybe send out the capital request, like the beginning of February. Because that's something we'll have to take up towards the end before the town meeting,
Right.
knowing what we've got. I've got the amount that's left in the free cash. Here's some of it. It's 24,000. It gave me the printout and then I can't find it now on my desk. Jean, do you have the amount for the free cash? I can't find.
Not here in front of me, but it's like 23,400 something, whatever.
Mhm.
$5 come off of it. But that's done now. So now we gotta wait for our new certificate.
It rolls into the.
Yeah. And I don't know, DOR is really backed up. I'm trying to get my balance sheet done now after this last meeting. I had to wait. So, I don't know when we'll have the number.
Yeah. Now, Jean,
We gotta wait for a new number.
do you want to explain this new thing that came up today? Just so the finance committee will be aware of it.
I know, because did they all get that email or was it just you, Claire?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at it. because it came in late.
I think it was just Claire on the email.
There, okay.
But I thought the finance committee should be aware of it.
Okay. You want me to do it now?
Yeah, you can explain it now.
So what happened is, we had our recap all set to go, and we were waiting for the town clerk to do the minutes for the annual and the special. And when she did the annual, we found out that the motion that was made for the omnibus, line 5, which was the omnibus budget, which was $5.5 million, the motion was made to raise and appropriate the $5.5 million and didn't take into consideration the ambulance, putting in $475,000 to cover the ambulance budget, or the water and sewer enterprise funds for paying their debt, which is also funded in that 5.5 number. So we are well over levy capacity now, of about $500 and some odd thousand. So it looks like I do have a phone call into the DOR, but she didn't call me back because I didn't find out about this until this afternoon myself. It looks like we may be having another town meeting because that Article 5 should have been to raise and appropriate the lesser of the two numbers. The whole budget was 5.5. Let me see. Hold on. It was 5,547,692. And of that number, 475,000 should have been funded by the ambulance. Debt from water should have been 30,399, and debt from sewer should have been 81,602. When they did the motion, that number should have been less than 5.5 because it should have taken into account those available funds that were going to be moved into the general fund to cover the budgets, and that didn't happen. The motion strictly read to raise and appropriate 5.547,692. So, and also, I noticed too, when I got her minutes, because I just got the town clerk's minutes, actually water and sewer to pay for that debt, that wasn't voted correctly either. We voted the entire budget, but we should have voted those debt portions separately so that it was going to that budget. Right now, they're just sitting in the budget of the water and sewer department. So, I do have a call into Deb Wagner because I do think, I don't know what they're going to say at this point, but the motion was definitely wrong on that budget line, in that Article 5.
Yeah.
So, we're in limbo.
We'll probably have to have another town meeting to.
Yeah.
I don't know how else they do it.
I don't know either. One of the things on the article for the ambulance, see, we've never done our budget this way before. This was when we had the interim town administrator. We did it entirely differently than what we were used to doing it. Whereby and also because of the fact of COVID, we had that meeting outside. And so the moderator had lumped that whole entire, we usually go by departments through that whole budget at our normal.
Yeah.
Then we would get to the debt and we'd say, okay, we're going to appropriate this much of the debt for raise and appropriate, and this much is coming from water and this much is coming from sewer. Right when we do that specific, department on the budget. But we didn't do that this time around. We took the whole entire omnibus budget and just voted it. So that was probably part of the problem too. It wasn't done the usual ways that we do things.
Cause that, 475 should have come from ambulance receipt.
Yeah, and we would have, at a normal town annual, we would have voted the ambulance budget separately, because we always, remember, we always have the motions read for each department. We have to go up there, and Jason and everybody, and he would have read the motion to budget, raise and appropriate so much money for the ambulance budget, and then take 475,000 or whatever number from the ambulance fund. So we did that on each department. But this town meeting, we didn't do that. We just put them all together and voted the whole budget. So all the transfers in, the proper pieces. Although Article 4 with the ambulance does say to fund the FY21 omnibus budget. I don't know if that's going to help us any. That's what I'm going to try to find out.
Yeah.
In that article, but I've got to talk to the DOR, and like I said, I didn't know till 4:30, and so I haven't heard from her. She would probably call me tomorrow.
I say, what are these people doing?
Of course, the panic in my voice, she probably won't call me tomorrow either. I'll be again.
Gee, no money disappeared. It's just in the wrong accounts, right?
Right. It's just voted wrong. I mean, the motion just had too much money and raise and appropriate in it.
What I'm saying is there's no real money went in the drain. It's somewhere.
Yeah, no, we didn't lose any.
Okay.
But the way it's voted, the ambulance right now has a $500,000 budget plus 475 from the ambulance fund. So they got a real big budget right now.
Don't tell
We're
Rob.
going to buy a lot of ambulances this week.
Tell Bob he can't buy that admin bill.
Yeah. So
That
that's
new Cadillac, is that Bob's new Cadillac?
yeah. So I think if we have to go back, we'll have to just revote that Article 5, which is the entire budget, vote it as raise and appropriate for the amount that's only going to be raised and appropriated, and then add to it the ambulance being applied to it and the water and sewer for the debt for both of the water and sewer enterprise funds. It may be just a 1 or 2 article thing. We probably have to rescind what we voted and then fortunately, that's what happened. So
Maybe it'll snow outside this time.
Yeah.
So that's the news.
Yes, that's the news. Unfortunately, we were filling out the recap by memory until Ellen got a chance to do her minutes, and now when she did them, actual things came to light, and we were like, uh-oh. So.
Now, Jessica, could you give us an update on the COVID? If there's any update on anything?
As far as cases go?
Yeah, everything, just a general.
Sure. We have seen recently an increase in cases. So last week there were 4 new cases, and this week I think there were, I just looked at the number and I don't want to mess it up, but let me see if I can pull that up real quick. She's reporting that she's seeing about 2 to 3 new cases per day, which is pretty significant for the town, considering that in previous months we have seen 0 cases for the large part of since probably about April or May, or I should say probably since May, we've seen on average very, very low cases. So this could just, we're seeing a lot of increase in cases across the state right now in general. So it's only expected that, Barre would be included in an increased number of cases. It could be related to a lot of people, although it was not advised. A lot of people got tested as their ticket to go to a Thanksgiving dinner. So that could, that could be related to an increase in testing. That I don't know, because I don't know how many people are getting tested right now. That wasn't included in her most recent report. So, right now we're just seeing an increase in cases.
And nothing new has been done. We've got, what was it, about 10,000 left in the CARES money? Is that what you had said?
Yeah. So our CARES money, all departments are just working on spending down those CARES money now.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens in January with, if there will be another round of stimulus money.
Yeah. Now, the different departments we've got on here that we want to try to do something a little new this year, and so that finance committee members can get more involved with each department, so we know actually what they're doing and different things, how they're progressing with things, so that we know what their money is being spent for. And Ted volunteered to do the DPW. He thought he was interested in that, right, Ted?
Yeah.
So I put you down for that. That way you can know if they want new vehicles, if they really do need it, and how they work. I know last year I had gone to the cemetery meeting, and I didn't realize some of the things they were doing in the cemeteries until I actually went to the meeting and listened. So it helps us kind of understand what's going on. So if anybody, you can be looking them over, has a feeling on some of these small ones, if you want to take a couple of them or whatever, you can let me know. And if you during the year can maybe attend a couple of their meetings or whatever's needed. Some of them don't have that much. The planning board may be interesting to go to. So does anyone else have any thoughts? And Dan and Karen.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question on meeting minutes. Is there a state requirement that we have to have meeting minutes of any official town meeting? Because I looked on our website, and the Selectmen's meeting minutes, you're able to look them right up, okay? Other things, you have to go and pay for freedom of information if you want to do minutes. And other departments don't even mention minutes. And so, is there a requirement for that, or do we do it just for the hell of it?
No, it is a Mass General Law requirement through the open meeting law that every public body takes minutes and records minutes. As far as having them posted online, though, that's a different story. They, at the very minimum, they have to be on record with the town clerk. And it's a public records request if you want to see them. You don't have to you don't have to pay for anything.
But the thing is, I looked online, and some of the meeting, I think, were kind of listed under, was it the town clerk, you said? So that's where they should reside then, right? So if people want to know what's going on in meetings, theoretically, you can go get meeting minutes for last year to see what happened. They would be hanging around somewhere.
Yep, yeah. They by law they have to be on record with the town clerk, and like I said, that is on record with the town clerk in her office. does not necessarily mean that they have to be listed online. That's another, that's
Right.
that's something else that a town can do. And, I think it's a great idea that everybody should have their meeting minutes accessible online. There's transparency is a wonderful thing. But there's just through the state law, the bare minimum is that per open meeting law, they have to have it recorded and stored in the town clerk's office.
Okay.
And and then
Okay.
a simple public records request, you can get those.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So Carrie, do you have any questions as to what's going on that we can help you with?
No, I think you guys did a great job explaining. Thank you.
What about you, Dan? You got any questions at all?
No, I'm pretty good. Followed along well. Just taking it in, right now. And I think once we start going through the process here, I'm sure I'll have lots of questions. But right now, just kind of trying to observe and seeing where I can provide input.
Well, anytime you have a question on anything, just stop us and ask it.
Yeah, no, I have to look. I would have to, in terms of the sitting in on other departments, I would have to look at their schedule and see how it coordinates with my schedule.
Yeah.
I believe some of them have their meetings and times posted on the town calendar, but not all. Do we have everyone's meeting through Zoom right now except for the board, or is the board just publish it on Zoom, right?
So for the most part, it's kind of a mix right now on what committees and boards are doing. A lot of them are via Zoom, and under the governor's executive order, every public meeting has to be accessible remotely. So if you want to call in, Zoom in, do whatever method that the board or committee allows, it is, under the executive order, because of COVID, it has to be accessible remotely. But again, per open meeting law, they have to be posted 48 hours beforehand at least. So, and that is all online. We do have it pretty much mandatory that every board and committee that hosts a public meeting, they have to go through the My Town Government website, which is posted in the comments by Joy.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'll go through and I'll look and I'll see if there's any committees that work with my schedule.
Yeah.
And are they all different times, or are there other meetings that conflict, like when we're meeting now? Are there other departments meeting?
I'm not sure.
It's mostly different. Yeah, like the select board meets on Monday nights, and mostly at 6:30 or 7. That's usually the general time frame that meetings start. There might be a couple anomalies, but
I noticed there was one coming up at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. one day.
right, which they usually have their meetings at night to be accommodating to people who work, but there are some committees that are able to meet during the day.
Okay.
Jen, have you thought about any?
I mean, based on their schedule, I could do like the conservation committee or the planning board, because they're 7 o'clock meetings, or both.
Okay, I'll put you down on those.
It looks like I could do the conservation committee, historical committee, Actually, historical committee was canceled for that day. As long as it's a 7 p.m. one, I'm just trying to find. At least I could do sewer commissions at 7 p.m.
Yeah, Ted's doing all the DPW, which is the sewer
Okay.
and water. They're all done together. They all meet together. Is that right, Ted?
Well, I looked on the Barre website and I'm not really exactly sure. It looks like water meets one night, sewer meets another night, so I'm just gonna have to find out, because each one of the departments is run by a different commission.
I thought they meet like a half hour before the other ones.
Maybe, I don't know. I was looking around, but they apparently still meet at the DPW garage.
Yeah. Jessica, could you possibly get us a list of the times they meet and maybe send it out to the finance committee?
Claire?
Yeah.
Jessica's computer froze, so
Okay.
try to get back on.
Or maybe you can do it, Sandra. You know,
What is that? I'm sorry, I was listening to her. Reading her text, I'm sorry. What do you need me to do?
They're trying to pick out different departments for meetings that they would be able to attend.
Okay.
So if you could get a list, you know, of when they usually meet and have Jessica send it out to all of us so you can. So then we know.
Are you guys familiar with My Town Government?
Yes, I am.
If you go on that and you click on the town of Barre, it'll list all the departments and committees when their meetings are scheduled. It'll give you a date and a time, and then Claire, you know, because you put the agenda on there. And it shows the agenda. That would help them
There was a link
know the schedule.
Yeah, there's a link. Someone shared a link in the chat here. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay,
That's
yeah, from Joy Larrabee, yep.
So yeah, Claire, looking at that list, I can do historical, conservation, and library.
Mm-hmm.
The historical one is canceled as of December 7th, but I'm sure they'll find a new time. As long as it's at 7, I can commit to that.
Okay, so historical, conservation,
And library
okay.
trustees.
We always, I think they kind of look on us as the overseer of the dollars, and if we can come in with a different, so that we want to work with them and see what they're doing and see what they want to do, I think it helps.
Now the emergency departments, they don't run meetings, do they? Like police, fire, ambulance. I don't see anything from them on the website.
I thought they do. I'm not sure. What do you know, Ted? Bob has meetings.
I mean, I never heard of a police meeting like that. Maybe they have them. I don't know.
Fire does department trainings first and third Monday of the month.
Or even if you were interested in it, Dan, you know, Bob could show you even around and what they do and just be, you know.
Either I could do that, Council on Aging, pretty much any of those. Felton Field.
Okay, well, we'll start doing that stuff after we meet on the 21st, so you can be thinking about it.
Okay.
So I think that's it for tonight, unless you Anybody else has anything else they wanna bring up?
Does Gene have any more bad news?
Not yet.
Thanks, Gene.
One day. That's enough for today.
That's enough. You got it.
Okay, we'll save
Yeah.
something for the next day.
Yeah. And Alex,
All right.
good news for us. Is he still there? Oh, maybe he's not. Maybe his screen froze too. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion
Make a
to
motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
second.
I
All right.
Aye.
Good night, all.
Merry Christmas,